happening, everybody? I'm back from the resident supervillain, Mr. J. Washington, with my review of Woke, the Hulu original. Now, if you have not seen this series yet, come on back because there's going to be spoilers. I had to come talk about this series, first and foremost because of what the subject matter is, what the show is. Secondly, because of who's on the show, my homeboy T. Murph, who joined us on Blurs in the Hood, myself and Winston A. Marshall, to talk about the show. You can catch that episode up right now on the Blurs in the Hood YouTube channel, youtube.com/blurdsinthehood, BLERDS, the letter N, THEHOOD. And also because of the dynamics surrounding the cast, I wanted to definitely talk about this. I watched the whole thing. I binged through it. It's 30 minutes an episode, so I binged through this pretty quickly. And I'm going to take out my personal bias, because I know a lot of people who are watching this who know the friendship that I and T. Murph have will say, I'm only saying this because of the bias. We all know, if you've seen this or if you've read any reviews, how everyone feels about T. Murph's character, Clovis. Undeniable, comedic relief. The character stays steady throughout the thing. Lamar Morris's character of Keith Knight, a black artist, a cartoon artist, who has the belief that certain things only happen to certain people in certain situations until he's a victim of police brutality. Now, I know there are some people who will think that this is a far-reaching thing to say, but that's not the case, especially if you look at today's society. And now I'm not talking about just with the protest and the constant viewings of police brutality on so many different fronts. I'm talking about the actual truth. You've had many black men and women who believe that the things that happen to black men and women that we're constantly talking about don't exist until it happens to them. And in the process, you have everything that Keith goes through in this. Now, one of the things I thought they were going to play on, I thought they were going to do the typical trope where Keith ends up breaking up with his girlfriend, Trina, who's a lawyer, a sister, keep in mind. I thought, okay, he ends up meeting Sashir's modest character of Ayanna. She runs this local paper called the Bay Area. That's for the San Francisco, Oakland area. And I was like, oh, he's going to meet Ayanna, who she knows who he is at the meeting at Golden Con, is him speaking at a con when he snaps out finally, or beforehand, excuse me. I was like, oh, they're going to end up together, basically. But they didn't do that. They spent it on his head because her character is gay and is actually dealing with the fallout of a relationship on her own. So I was happy they did that, because it was like, please don't let this just fall down the automatic path of where I know it's going to go. Now, I know one of the problems a lot of people are going to have with this show is because it's called Woke, right? It's about a black dude who has an experience, who doesn't believe these certain things happen, but after he gets his ass whooped and tackled by the police for no reason, because they're looking for a 6-foot black dude, and that character ain't nowhere near 6 feet, blah, 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 that he ends up later dating a white New Zealand artist. She's a white woman. And they develop a real relationship. Now, for her, she's more of the, is she Australian? I think she's New Zealand. She's a Kiwi, as New Zealanders call themselves. The relationship for her is, okay, we cool, we like each other, we fuck a lot, it is what it is. But as Keith's character, as Lamar Morris's character, Keith is opened up and woke, things around him start talking. And again, he's a cartoonist, so everything he sees is in a cartoon form, which, by the way, has an amazing voice cast. I'll get back to that in a moment. But there's one point where he makes up a slogan called Black People for Rent after he is invited to come to a party as the only black dude there amongst a bunch of artist friends. He meets a woman while he's driving for a rideshare service. And it was reminiscent of a scene from like Get Out. But after going there, Keith decides he wants to make this thing, a flyer that says Black People for Rent, help you get up street cred, blah, 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 which goes viral because so many people are talking about it in both good and bad ways. But he has a t-shirt. His Clovis gets t-shirts printed up of this. And I'm bringing this up because I think her name is Kirsten. She puts on, the New Zealander, she puts on one of Keith's t-shirts that says Black People for Rent. And Keith, who is going through this whole new experience, he sees the cartoon version of the shirt, which is voiced by Lil Rel Howery. Shouts out to the homie Rel. Talking about why you got this white woman wearing me. And again, it is a weird thing to see, like, yeah, it's just a girl wearing her guy's t-shirt. Like, fellas, if you've ever if you've ever been a girl ever been in a chick crib and been there for a while, she picking up a t-shirt, a hoodie or something, you know it is what it is. But a random white girl picking up a black people for rent shirt just was weird. She even called, because to her at first when she put the shirt on, it was nothing to her. She's like, it's just a shirt. She didn't realize, oh shit, I'm wearing a shirt that says black people for rent. They go through this relationship issue of, are they really in a relationship? Are they not? Keith tries to judge his blackness on should he be with her and should he not. He's presenting at an art show. Again, spoilers, I'm all over the place. I'm not going bit by bit too much. Goes to an art show to present new cartoons because his original cartoon that he was making called Toast and Butter gets taken over by the company he works for after he has a fucking mental breakdown. Long story short. In the thing, he's doing a depiction of him and his girlfriend on swings in her art studio that she had. And she was a white girl. He's a black guy. And him being around this uber level of blackness, this hyper wokeness, if you will, him in the bathroom trying to fix it up, he blackfaces his girl's picture because he thinks that they'll look at him wrong for dating a white girl. I was like, okay. And then it's actually brought up in the thing. And then she's like, yo, why did you darken me up? And he was like, I don't know. I freaked out. That is also something I've seen a lot in just real life. Winston on Blurs in the Hood talks about a lot. He's in a relationship with a white girl and he gets dirty looks a lot of times. There are people who still downplay and frown upon interracial relationships. There are many who have said on social media that a black man cannot be woke, cannot speak on black rights and black issues if he is dating or married to a white woman, which I think is absolutely absurd. As long as your partner that you're with is not against your race and your culture, or just in general ignorant as a whole, you can speak on whatever. You can be enlightened by everything. There comes a point where Keith is with his roommates, Gunther, played by Blake Anderson from Workaholics, and Clovis T. Murph, and he has this big breakdown after leaving. After going to this party, he has a breakdown. And it's about how nobody cares about what happens to him, and if another cop beats him on the street, and he has this emotional breakdown moment, and I don't think anyone sees it. The cast, the roommates, they don't see it as that, but I think it's meant to be portrayed to the viewers that black men, we have these moments. We have these moments, and I feel personally, this, even though this show, they filmed it back in 2019, I know this because I remember when Murph was in Canada filming it, and he hit me up, and we were talking. It is still indicative of things that black men go through today. People say it is hyperbole, over-exaggerated sometimes. It's not. There are black men and women who have had run-ins with the police that could have ended their lives off of simple mistakes, misunderstandings, or they just didn't give a fuck. And now it goes to show how black men feel where we're unappreciated, where we're not respected. Anything we do is scrutinized under a microscope. So Keith has to eventually learn how to see, he learns to see the world for what it is. There comes a point later in the episode, he makes a new cartoon, and the cartoon is basically about his episode with police violence. And because of his episode with police violence, the cartoon he makes and it goes around, the officer that is depicted in that is the one that assaulted him, tries to sue Keith for defamation of character. The police say they want to make this all go away if the two of them sit down and have a talk over beers. The cop is like, yo, I was a hero to my kid, and that picture made me look like the bad guy, and we're under siege, and blah, 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 blah. And at one point, Keith is like, yo, are you serious? Like, I was minding my business, hanging up posters, and you tackled me. I had a stapler. He's like, that can be perceived as a weapon. A stapler. Again, these are things that happen in real life, the situations and stories we're hearing about. People bring up Tamir Rice, the 12-year-old boy in Cleveland who was shot when he pointed a toy gun at cops. And again, people be like, well, don't point a gun at cops. But here's the thing about a toy gun, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know, and if you should just do some research, toy guns specifically have orange tips on them to indicate that they are toy guns. So a 12-year-old poses that kind of threat. But again, to say a stapler can pose a threat. You know, you've seen this in many situations. But it gets to the point where in that discussion with Keith and the officer, The officer says, "You're lucky we were nice. We won't be so nice next time," which again is indicative of many conversations many people have had. There are some people who will feel like, again, it's hyperly over exaggerated, but this is not. These stories that you hear, these stories that you are seeing that have been told to you repeatedly, and repeatedly, that you've ignored and ignored and ignored until one moment it takes a pandemic to have your ass sit down and everything is put in front of you and you can't ignore it anymore. So now it's put in the form of a comedy and some people think it's over exaggerated. These are things that have happened. You get to the point where at one point Keith decides he can't deal with his mental change and the world around him and his perception of the world and the world's perception of him while trying to date a white girl while he thinks it might be wrong. And they separate for a minute, but at the end of the day, they come back together because he realizes it doesn't matter what the world thinks. He cares about her. You have Sashir Zamata's character who, after a lot of conversation with Clovis, T. Murph's character, comes to find out she's a fuck boy or a fuck girl. She cheated on her girl, then her girl cheated on her, but she's the one that's hurt. And it's like, okay, this is a nice spin on things. You got Blake Anderson's character, Gunther, who's a white guy who says he's woke in his own sense. And that's one thing T. Murph said on the Blurs in the Hood episode, is that there are levels of wokeness for everybody. But at one point, when I bring up earlier that Keith has the Black People for Rent posters and he's putting them around, Gunther brings one home to them and is like, yo, did you ever think about how this makes me feel? How I have to deal with people's racism? And both Keith Knight, played by Lamar Morris, and Clovis, played by T. Murphy, like, oh, so you're uncomfortable with it. Racism is uncomfortable to you. Like, oh, I'm sorry, you're the one. And this, again, is indicative of things that happen in life. I know at this point there are people that have disliked this video because they're like, oh, here we go playing the race card. And it's not playing the race card. It's calling shit for what it is. This show is very satirical in its full element, I guess. But it's also so much based in reality. So much stuff that happens. It is a heavy topic because it is the current topic in which we've been inundated with throughout the world in the midst of a global pandemic. There's a part where a koala escapes from the zoo. Again, I told you at the beginning there'll be spoilers. A koala escapes from the zoo and everybody's on the hunt for the koala, right? Everybody's looking for the koala. The buses and everything gets stopped because they think they see the koala. The koala's been seen and the police don't want anything to happen, but Keith, Clovis, and Gunther are on the way for Keith to see a lawyer so he can get the rights back to his original cartoon. And he's like, yo, it's a fucking koala. Can we go? Well, they're on the bus, by the way. In the process of the bus, there are all these different people talking about but the koala. And I think a lot of people didn't catch on until later in the episode when they found the koala died, the koala's been choked to death. A cop, literally, they show a cop, well, not directly on the koala, but it's implied he has the koala behind a garbage can and chokes him to death. And people are mourning the koala. There is a vigil and everything. There's a vigil and people are sad and the koala's life, blah, blah, blah. And at one point, a dude has a sign that says, Eric Garner, Trayvon Martin, Sandra Bland, and Cuddy, the koala's name. And it pisses Keith off, as it rightfully should. Because there are many instances where people call themselves woke have done that. You hear an animal die, when Harambe died, how everybody... Again, I'm not advocating for the violence against animals, by no means. But what I will not allow, and I will not stand for, is you comparing the death of an animal to the unjust killing of people. Not just black people, and then to use black names and to put an animal on it. This is shit that has happened in real life, and it is brought to you in the form of the show. Some people may think it's too much, but it's the truth. Keith snaps out at this, and people are mad. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Oh, why are you acting like this? You're an a-hole, buddy. Like, somebody in a koala suit eventually punches him. But the problem is, this is real life. Again, it's set up to be a comedy and satirical, but these things happen. You've had instances where people have put other things on a pedestal more than a human life. I'm sorry to say, have put an animal on a pedestal, and I know people will say, well, I like animals more than humans. That is fair, fine, whatever, do you. But when you have people who've been memorialized and have been trying to get justice for black men and black women in particular that have been unjustly murdered by the police, we're still trying to get Breonna Taylor's cop killers arrested. They are out walking freely. You have people who are already saying, well, Jacob Blake had this record and George Floyd had a record, when nobody gives a fuck about their record because the police don't know their record at the moment. So don't bring up their record like it actually matters in that moment in time when the police come across them. It doesn't matter because you never know it. The police are called for a reason and not because of that record. I digress. But you have all these men and women who have been killed. Sandra Bland, where the cops lied and said she died with her hands behind her back, all this other stuff. And then to put an animal up there as if it's the same thing. It's not. This happens a lot. And so some people feel it might miss the mark. Some people love it. Some people will love it because of the day and age we're in. Some people will love it because of the humor. I love it because of the elements in which it's like, yo, this shit really happens. And yeah, you have the thing with the voice cast. Like I said, you get a Nicole Byer, Cedric the Entertainer, JB Smoove, Lil Rel Howery. You got so many amazing people doing voicing of the characters that Keith sees after becoming woke. And that is a hyper-textualized element behind things, but you got to remember, your eyes are open to new things. We've all had instances in life that have changed our perspectives on things. It may not be the black issue, the black experience in America. It may be, for some people, your experiences with the LGBT community, your experiences with a cat or with a dog, things like that. And so overall, I love what this show brought. I love what this show stood for. The door is open for a second season. Will it get it? We can only hope. But I think I encourage you one way or another, whether you like what you just heard, dislike what you heard, or unsure of what you heard, check out the show for yourself. But when you watch it with an open mind. Again, I prefaced this in the beginning. I was going to watch it anyway. I have a personal friend in the show I came up through in stand-up together in Chicago with. I'm going to support the show. Now, I had to take that element out of it and watch the show for the show. Why? Because y'all see me on here reviewing TV shows and movies. I have friends that are in other TV shows and movies. I myself have been in TV shows and movies. I'm in the most hated movie of 2015, and I'll bring it up because people always want to bring that shit up to me, and I'm like, yo, at this point, I don't care. People were going to dislike it regardless. But I watched this show with a clear and open mind, and I gave my thoughts on it. And I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. So go ahead and like this video if you like it. If you dislike it, you can dislike it too. Doesn't matter, because I know that's how you feel. But if you dislike it, let me know why you dislike what you just heard. Because are you tired of hearing about race and things like that? And you want to you don't want race to be an art. You look to TV and film as an escapism, when TV and film has always, like I said, been indicative of the current times, which happens to involve race a lot. And as a black man, my life is always going to be predicated by race, no matter what. So let me know what you think about that, all right? Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Please hit the subscribe button and click on the notification bell to find out when I'm dropping new videos. I'm trying to find more stuff to talk about because, again, we're in this day and age where all of the content that was going to come out is out. So we're trying to play catch up, all right? Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Mr. J Washington. It's MRJAY. You should know how to spell Washington. You really should. Join my Patreon, patreon.com/Mr. J Washington. This is the Supervillain Squad. Not only are you a supporter of mine, you get to join my Discord with all of my squad members. And if you join at the $25 and up tier, that's the one-on-one with the Supervillain tier. That's when we sit down and have at least an hour-long conversation about whatever you want to talk about. And we've had some of the greatest ones, some great ones. They are on the channel right now for you to check out, so please do that. Blurs in the Hood every Tuesday and Thursday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. on the East Coast, on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/BLERDS, the letter NTHEHOOD, and on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Blurs in the Hood. Yeah, that's about it, man. Thank y'all for watching this, though. Make sure you check out Woke. Holla at y'all later.